Good morning. I can see a few names starting to pop up on my list now, so welcome to today's webinar. I'm just going to wait a few seconds until everybody's arrived on, well, at least until 10:30 before we actually kick off, but yeah, there's a massive amount. I assume you can see the attendee list growing quite quickly now. So a very popular webinar subject today, so thank you everybody for joining us. In a moment I will make an introduction to our guest, who you can probably see on your screen, Charlie, and yeah, lots of familiar names, and a hi from Nadeem. Hi there, you all right? Okay, so well, that's answered that question. You can at least hear me. So yeah, a massive growing list, a few raised hands as well, so thank you for that. There are too many names to go through and say welcome to everybody right now, but fantastic. I make it just gone 10:30, so on that note I'll hit the road running. In fact, just while that, morning Stephen and morning Shamsul, thank you for that. Right then, I'm just going to cover a couple of admin things. First of all, just while again the attendee list is just growing. We are, in fact, I say we are, yes we are, recording this. It is being recorded. I often get a lot of requests, can I see the recording, or can I get a link to it? We will by all means send you a link to the recording. In my experience, and I know I probably sound like a broken record for the regular attendees, nobody ever goes back to watch the recordings. We always put it on YouTube, we look at the view count, nobody ever goes back. So if you can stay till the end, stay till the end. It's going to be less than 60 minutes anyway, so stay till the end. Obviously, if something urgent crops up, then fair enough, but yeah, absolutely stay to the end and give your undivided attention. I'm going to be asking you a couple of questions to start with, and Charles going to be asking some questions throughout, so make this your primary focus, please. Now, some of you have already found the chat box. That's fantastic. What I'd like you to do is just, those of you who haven't yet popped into the chat box, if you can't see it, wave your mouse over me, and you should see some icons appear. One of them says chat box. Just go into there and just type in either your name or a good morning or something like that. Not too long, but just so that we can make sure everyone knows how to use that chat box. Thank you very much. Okay, so lots of things coming into there as well. And that's brilliant. And I see some of you have changed the default, or we might have changed the default to, on that drop-down list, just above it in a blue box is where you type in, it says all panelists by default, I think it does. So some of you have changed it to all panelists and all attendees. Those of you who haven't, it's always better to do that, because actually we're going to be asking you some of your frustrations over LinkedIn very shortly, and it's great actually if other people can see it. We feel that we're less alone. It's not just us having these types of problems. Actually, these can be quite common. So yeah, lots of familiar names and a few names I don't know there. So for the benefit of the names I don't know, I'm Shane Lucas. I'm just about to formally introduce Charlie, but Charlie's the wonderful looking lady on the screen as well. And Charlie is our expert guest on this webinar. I'm Shane Lucas, I'm Managing Director of AVN. Okay, so let's start with the webinar content. I'm often faced or hear from accountants some of the challenges that they have, and I'm going to be inviting you to forward yours, but I do see a lot of mistakes that people make. And actually, I say accountants, people in general, people in business seem to make these mistakes. One big mistake is that they don't use LinkedIn very effectively, and that's just a massive drain on time. I see a lot of people outsourcing for content, and actually what just comes through, two different things come through. Either plain vanilla generic content that's just flowing out, that's been taken from some canned resource somewhere, and they're just sending this stuff out, and it doesn't really reflect your personality. Or it's just self-promoting stuff. You know, we do accounts, get in touch. We do bookkeeping, get in touch. And certainly I don't think that's the best use of LinkedIn either. And then another mistake I often see, in fact, I've been guilty of it in the past, and it was Charlie who raised this one with me. I first met Charlie, our guest, back in February to B1G1 event. And I don't know if you'll remember saying it, Charlie. In fact, maybe I'm stealing your thunder from later on, so forgive me if I do. But you said to me that when you first established your business, you reached out to a few accountants via LinkedIn in your area. You went to connect and not one of them responded. And quite often we'll see, someone's asked you to connect, we'll just click the accept and we won't do anything about it. And you could argue, why are they trying to connect? What's the reason for it? It's like somebody phoning up with an inquiry and you pick the phone up, say, thanks for calling, and put it down. You're missing an opportunity, aren't you? So hopefully, I think Charlie will probably talk about some things he can do there. So I think it's incredibly important to raise your online profile as well as your offline profile. Today, more than ever, if you're not on LinkedIn, you're probably just seen as outdated and even a relic. It's incredibly important to be on LinkedIn and certainly tapping into the social media platform that really suits you, especially. In fact, in my book, I've got a massive several chapters on the importance of it myself. By the way, if you don't have a copy of that, I'll send you a link out after that one where you can just give me your address and we'll send you a copy out for free if you're in the UK and Ireland. Okay, now I think the next thing to do, I'm just going to ask you right now, I've offered for a few minutes, I'm just going to put it over to you for a moment before I then introduce Charlie. What is the challenge that you currently face when it comes to using and getting the most effective use out of LinkedIn? I'd like you to put that in the chat box. Oh, I've referred to Charlie, but apparently some of you say you can't see it. She should be there, but maybe on a smaller window if I'm the one talking, but we'll make sure Charlie's inside. Okay, so in the chat box, the biggest challenge that you've got. So time to do it's come up. Yeah, coming up with topics, get that. Yeah, knowing what to post. We'll make sure you can see Charlie at the end, don't we? Oh, not at the end, at the beginning. Okay, so let's go in a little bit quick, but hopefully you can see those as well, Charlie. Okay, so there's some wonderful stuff coming up here. We're going to give that a minute or so, so keep typing them in and sending them in. Oops. Okay, so that seems to have slowed a little bit. If you're still typing and you're a one-finger typer, fine, just keep them coming in. In the meantime, I am going to hand over the reins. So, as I mentioned earlier, I first met Charlie at a B1G1 event. B1G1 is something that we're both mutually passionate about. And Charlie spoke at that event and she delivered a fantastic presentation on LinkedIn. I tapped her on the shoulder, I think, the moment she sat down and said, I'd love for you to do a webinar for me. It's taken us a few months, hasn't it? I suspect your pregnancy, Charlie has recently, just 10 weeks ago, given birth. Yes, anyway, so finally that webinar has happened. So I'm going to hand over the reins to Charlie Wyman. Over to you, Charlie.
Brilliant. Can everybody hear me? Just sort of say yes, raise your hand. Can you see me, hopefully? All good, all good. Okay, there was, yeah, brilliant. Awesome. Welcome. So there's some great challenges that you're putting in the chat. So hopefully I will be able to cover those during this webinar today. And as Shane said before, the recording will be available afterwards. However, as is usually the case, then, time and availability. So I think he was saying that nobody ever watches the replay, but it will be available. So yeah, just a quick introduction. So yes, my name is Charlie Wyman, and what I do is I help individuals and teams raise their profile on LinkedIn in order to win more business and become more visible. So essentially you're raising your influence in your industry and showcasing what it is that you're amazing at. Now, who here thinks that you have to specifically advertise your services in order to win new leads and new business? Give me a yes or a no in the chat. No, a few yeses, a few absolutelys. Yes, me. Okay, so there's definitely a mixed opinion around promoting your services. One of the key things that a lot of people do on social media is that they revert solely to that kind of promotional, you're always talking about the services that you offer. And all of the services that you offer essentially solve a problem for your clients. And your clients and your prospects and your market I'm sorry to tell you this, aren't actually interested in how you do what it is that you do. All they're interested in is the outcome that you deliver. All they want is for you to solve their problems. And that problem could be, I just need my accounts doing. That problem could just be, I need to free up some more of my time to focus on what I need to be doing. That problem could just be, I have no idea doing what I need to do, but it needs doing in some way. And yeah, you are solving the problems for your clients. So instead of this kind of traditional way of thinking, because when everybody thinks of marketing, everybody seems to think, oh right, I need to tell the world what it is that I do and how brilliant I am, which on the flip side, you need to do two things. You need to show and demonstrate your authority in your industry. So you need your industry and your market to know that you are really, really good at what it is that you're doing and you are able to do the job properly. And you also need to be able to demonstrate your empathy in the market. You need to make your market understand that you get them. You know in detail how they work, what their problems are, and you are the right person to then solve that. And essentially, that's what effective marketing is. You need to demonstrate your authority and your empathy. And a lot of the time, we're always going out, we're trying to promote ourselves and, sort of tell the world how amazing we are. And instead of our market actually listening to what it is that we're saying, we're just contributing to that noise on social media. So how many people think, I noticed a few comments in the chat about challenges and frustrations that, LinkedIn, social media, the internet is just a noisy place at the moment. It's a really noisy place where everybody's essentially screaming for attention, yet nobody's listening. And now in today's world, it's more important than ever to be able to actually stand out and really make people listen to you and take notice of what it is that you're saying. So I've got a few people saying helping rather than selling and solutions, and agreeing to the point about the noise. And so our goal, and I'm going to focus on LinkedIn here because that's my area of expertise. But the goal really is to spend your time effectively posting content or using a platform so that your market pays attention to what it is that you've got to say, so that when they are ready to pay to have their problem solved, you are the person that they go to get those problems solved. Does that make sense? And is everybody sort of in agreement with that? Yes, brilliant. Because that's the name of the game, isn't it? We want to win more leads. But also, just who here has an inbox full of leads from people that are essentially just tire kickers and people just trying to waste their time? Too many. You know what, like this, I've worked in sales and marketing for many years now, and it's one of my biggest frustrations is when you just get leads from people just saying, oh, can I have a price? And you're like, oh, well, don't you want to know what I offer, what value I offer first? And it's really, really irritating. And that's one of the reasons why I really like LinkedIn, is that I've found in my experience, and also the experience of the people that I work with, is that the quality of inquiry is much higher. So you are much more likely to win business from that inquiry coming from LinkedIn than you are from your website or from any other social media platform. So what the name of the game and what we're going to talk about today is all about how to actually use LinkedIn with the goal of winning new business, not just generating leads. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a 20-minute a day strategy that you can use on LinkedIn in order to win new business, because I know that a lot of people on here have posted that time is a big frustration. And then also I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to get your messages. So if you're doing direct sales and direct prospecting, how to get people to take notice of what it is that you're saying and actually get a response rather than crickets. Because again, another one of my biggest frustrations is when you send a message to somebody and they just don't reply. Anybody else find that really frustrating? Yeah. So we want to avoid that. And just to give a little bit of background about me, because again, I talk about authority, is that, I'm not a professional, I'm not a trained marketer. I didn't study marketing at university. I haven't done, a load of marketing qualifications. I've studied marketing in that I've studied the way that people behave, and I've worked in marketing roles for the last well, essentially all my career, because essentially what marketing is just understanding the way that markets behave and then responding to those needs in order to generate leads and inquiries. So I actually trained as an engineer. A lot of people are surprised to hear that. Yes, I studied engineering at university and then quickly realized that I was not going to be an engineer. I was much more interested in business and the sort of psychology of, you know, people's behaviors and what motivates them and what makes people act and respond. And I set up my first business back in 2005, 2006, and I moved to Italy, started making and selling olive oil. I developed a brand. I started importing that into the UK and selling olive oil and other Sardinian foods. And then I spent 2 years working in public sector when I moved back to the UK in grant funding. I was then offered a job. So it was as a person that I used to work with, and she came up to me and said, "You are wasted working for the NHS. You need to come and work for my husband's company." And this company sold laser scanning equipment to the global geospatial sector. Anybody know what the global geospatial sector is? Anybody tell me? Okay, there's a couple of people, I don't know, one person that said yes, which is great. Quite a few other people have said no idea. Yeah, I had no idea at the time either. Not a clue. But somehow I'd ended up with this job as a marketing assistant for a company that sold laser scanning equipment. So anyway, laser scanning equipment is anything, it's a piece of equipment that uses light to take measurements of things, and you can mount them on aircrafts, drones, they can be self-standing, you can drive them around on vehicles. And the best way to describe it, I suppose, is if you think about Google Street View, what I was selling was essentially Google Street View, but for surveyors. So people that needed it to be really, really accurate and very, very high end. Yes, exactly. Great for mapping. It's all about mapping. But when I joined this company, I had absolutely no idea about the technology in which I was selling, and I had absolutely no idea about the industry in which I was selling to. But you know what? That was my greatest opportunity, because what that market focused on, and I find this with any other market, and then you'll have to let me know if you think that this is true for your market as well, is that everybody was very bogged down in the technology and in the process that they were working on in order to achieve that goal. Nobody was talking about the problems their clients had. Nobody was talking about the outcomes, the transformation, or the solutions, because everybody was so fascinated with the technology that they were developing and that they were selling. So what I did was that I went to all of these events all around the world. I started talking to people and understanding what their problems were, what their challenges were, what their frustrations were. And I started listening to the questions that they were asking. And because I was very new to this industry, especially early on, I didn't have the answers to all of these questions. So what I did was I went and found the answers to the questions. And instead of just responding to the person that asked it, I used LinkedIn as a platform to actually publish the answers to those questions. Because in my mind, I was thinking, you know what, if somebody has the gumph to ask this question, then other people will be thinking it, but just not necessarily asking it themselves. So over time, what I found was that I was developing a real following, because people kept following my content, people kept reading more, people kept requesting to connect with me because they wanted to find out more, because I was essentially positioning myself as that expert in the industry, because I was answering people's most commonly asked questions. Now, at the end of the day, I was just a marketing assistant working for a company. It was a global company, small company, but a global company. And what I found was that I was actually developing an accidental personal brand for myself, because people started to recognize my name. People started to come and seek me out at events, because I was that person that was being honest. I was that person that was educating the market, being authentic, being genuine, and essentially answering questions that people had. So within 3 years, it was probably about 2.5 years, I ended up being promoted from marketing assistant to the head of sales and marketing, the global head of sales and marketing, just by developing an accidental personal brand. Now, I'll be honest with you, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing at the time. I just thought in my head, this made sense, this was logical. And also what I realized was that it was really, really difficult to keep in touch with lots of people all at the same time, especially when you're meeting people from all around the world, all around the country. Email wasn't very reliable for me because in that industry, a lot of the times people were just ignoring the emails that were coming into their inbox. So I wanted to find a different way to communicate with people. So through LinkedIn, I managed to advance my career, but also become very well known in a market that I had previously no experience in. And then what I did as well, so I worked for that company for 6 years. And at the end, I actually used LinkedIn to find a new job, which was the head of marketing for another company that served the global shipping industry. So you might think, right, okay, why is she telling us this? Because we're not interested in getting a new job. But you have to think about the power of a personal brand and the fact that somebody with no marketing degree, no formal marketing qualifications, can not only end up with a job as the global head of sales and marketing, but then also get another job for another company as a head of marketing is huge, because I was able to demonstrate my authority in that market and really, sort of demonstrate my capability. So the other thing, because Nadeem has posted a question, which is, are we promoting our personal brand or our company brand, and which is best? And this is exactly what I want to talk to you about, because people buy from people, because it's all about know, like, and trust. I'm sure you've all heard of know, like, and trust. And I'm sure if you think about all of the clients that you've won in the past, they've turned into clients because they know you, they like you, and they trust you. And especially in your industry, you're dealing with bookkeeping and accountancy and everything, trust is a huge thing. You're never going to work with an accountant that you don't trust, are you? So you need to really develop that know, like, and trust. And like I said before, people buy from people. So I think the statistic, now this could have been picked out of the sky. I personally think it's higher, but the statistic that I found a while ago, which was that you are 19 times more likely to win business from your personal LinkedIn account than you are from your LinkedIn company page. Now, I'm going to focus my efforts for this particular webinar on using your personal profile on LinkedIn instead of your company page. But if we've got a bit of time at the end, I can touch on how to use a company page. But really, your time is going to be much better spent using your personal account to develop that real, sort of influence and authority in your market than it is to be using your company account. And Patrick's commented, sort of when you're a sole practitioner, they are one and the same, personal and company brand. Absolutely. Even if you're a small company and you do have a brand around it, you're going to develop your presence in your market a lot faster by using the personal brands of the people that work in your company than it is by promoting the actual company brand. Company brand is important, but personal branding is, especially today in the world that we live in with social selling and everything, it's way more important because it makes your life a lot easier to win leads and new business. So essentially, just to summarize, in terms of winning new business and getting people to really listen to you, your content and everything that you focus on LinkedIn, your messages, and you can even take this back into the emails that you send, needs to be focused around the problems that you solve, not how you solve them. And it's worth writing that down and reminding yourself of that thing over and over again, because that is how you're going to gain attention for what it is that you're talking about. So your market will respond to the problems that you solve, not how you solve them. Because also you want to differentiate yourself in the market. Because that's what Shane was talking about, like a lot of people are just promoting themselves all the time. It's this noise, come on, I'm an accountant, come and work with me, I'll do your books, come and work with me. How can you differentiate yourself in the market so that people think, I want to come and work with you. I'm not interested in working with any of these other accountants around me. You are the person that I want to come and work with. Pallavi, can you sorry, I think I missed that message. You've just put, can you give an example about what? If you're talking about an example of how you differentiate yourself, I mean, if you do a search on LinkedIn for LinkedIn trainers, there are nearly 80,000 people that are claiming to be a LinkedIn trainer. Emphasis on claiming to be, there's a lot of people that will charge you for a sort of LinkedIn training workshop and just basically give you generic social media training. So very much you get what you pay for when it comes to using LinkedIn. But I differentiate myself on LinkedIn because I'm not trying to please everybody and say, right, I will train anybody on how to use LinkedIn. Is that, I specialize in B2B selling on LinkedIn and personal branding. Also I post a lot of videos of myself. I put myself out there so then people get to know me, because trust takes time to build. And more often than not, people need to trust you before they will then work with you. People also need to trust you before they will actually send you an inquiry. So the more visible you are, the more people will get to know you, the more you will build up that trust. And the faster you will start to develop leads and inquiries. So I just want to share my screen and just show you an example of how to use your personal profile as a way to generate leads, and also why your personal profile is so important. Because if you do nothing else on LinkedIn, make sure that your profile is up to date and clearly addresses the challenges and pain points that you solve for your clients. Can anybody tell me what the biggest mistake people make is? What is the biggest mistake people make when it comes to writing a personal profile? Yeah, talking about themselves, just writing a CV. It's all about me, me, me. Absolutely. The headline, yes, the headline is very, very important. Yeah, biggest mistake that people make when writing their personal profile is that it is all about themselves. Secondary to that, it's a CV. Here's a challenge for you. After this webinar, I want you to go and have a look at your LinkedIn profile, and I want you to count the number of times that you say I and refer to yourself, and then count the number of times that you refer to your ideal client and tally them up. You should be referring to your ideal client 3 to 5 times more than you refer to yourself. So Stephen's commented, they put in what they do, their qualifications, but not how they help. I mean, qualifications are really important, especially in the accounting world, because it helps you demonstrate your authority. But a better way of demonstrating authority is through recommendations, is through sort of social proof, people backing up the fact that you are saying what it is that you're saying. And on LinkedIn, it's more important to show people what you mean and not just tell them. Yeah? Okay, so I want you to start thinking about your LinkedIn profile as a bit of a sales funnel. Does everybody know what I mean when I say a sales funnel? Yes, no. Okay, so a sales funnel essentially is you've got like a landing page where you have a call to action. So you're asking people to do something. Ideally, you want to gather an email address, or you want people to send you a message, give you a call, basically just interact with you in some way to let you know that they're interested in what it is that you're doing. And the sales funnel process is that you essentially collect an email address or a phone number or speak to somebody, and then you have like a nurture sequence. So then you nurture them or you respond to their inquiry, and then with the view that you eventually close them as a client, because you can't close people as clients unless you know who they are in the first place. So you want to use your LinkedIn profile essentially like a sales funnel. And to give you an example of how powerful a profile can be, I used my LinkedIn profile instead of a website for the first 12 months of my business. So I did not have a website. I used my LinkedIn profile instead. So this is another way that you can use your LinkedIn profile. Now let me just share. Oh, got the wrong slide. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen. Yep. Can everybody just let me know that you can see my screen? And it shows you a funnel. Screen okay? Yep, you can see it. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Okie doke. So this is what I mean. This is what I mean by a sales funnel. Okay, so your LinkedIn profile sits in the middle. But what you need to do is you need to direct people towards your LinkedIn profile. And the way that you do this is by posting your own unique content, is by engaging with other people. And what I mean by that is by commenting on their posts, is sending them messages, viewing, sort of responding to happy birthday or new job posts and things like that as well. Viewing other people's profiles. Have you ever found yourself having a look at the list of people that have viewed your profile and then gone onto their profile to see who they are? You're prompting curiosity, and this is a really good way of getting people to view your profile. And then also via search, people are searching for you and the services that you offer, because again, people search for solutions to the problems that they have. So these are the activities that you would do or take advantage of in order to direct people to your LinkedIn profile. And then on your LinkedIn profile, you essentially demonstrate your authority and your empathy in your market with a strong call to action. So make sure on your profile, in your about section, you prompt people to do what it is that you want them to do. Now, you may find that you are really, really busy and you're working with, you're at capacity and you're working with lots of clients at the moment. Now, don't rest on your laurels. Instead, find a way to generate email addresses, offer something for free. And this is what I mean by a lead magnet. Offer something for free, a PDF guide to show that you know what you're talking about. It could be a video. It could be it could even be a free consultation call. It could be, add your email address to a waiting list because you're so busy at the moment. Just something that you can kind of capture the interest of the people that you want to speak to without necessarily asking them to call you. The other thing as well is you can prompt them and just say, if you're interested in the services that I offer, if you're interested in me helping you solve your problems, then send me a message on LinkedIn, send me an email, give me a call. But the more you can directly ask your market to take action, the more likely you are to get a response. So, that analogy that you hear is like, oh, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's very true. But in order to lead the horse to water, you have to tell them what it is that you want them to do. So if you want somebody to call you and find out about what it is that you're offering, then tell people, if you're interested in working with me, give me a call and let's have a chat. Tell them to do that. If you prefer for them to email you, say that. If you'd like to find out more, please send me an email. Here's the email address. If you are too busy to take phone calls and respond to emails right now, download my latest PDF guide, join my mailing list, subscribe to my latest PDF guide. Does that make sense? So your profile sits at the heart of what it is that you're doing. And the other thing to remember, so I just stop sharing that for the moment. The other thing to remember is that not everybody in your market will be ready to work with you there and then. Okay, I'm going to say that one again. Not everybody in your market is going to be ready to work with you there and then. Especially for something like accountants, that you may find that somebody is looking for a new accountant. They're already working with an accountant and they are, they're not really that keen on them and they want to look for somebody new. That process could take a year. It could take a few weeks. It could take a year. You may find that somebody's new to business, but they're not quite ready to engage with an accountant or a bookkeeper. So that process takes a long time as well. But then for the people that are ready to work with you there and then, that's where you have that call to action. You're basically saying, you know what, if you want to have a chat about working with me, here, pick up the phone, send me an email. So for the people that aren't yet ready, you need to then nurture these people. And this is what I mean talking about your content on LinkedIn. And you don't need to be posting content every single day in order to be visible. You need to be posting good quality content that people actively spend time reading or taking action on. Does this all make sense? Everybody with me? Yeah? Brilliant. Okay. So you want to nurture people. And then this brings me on to the 20-minute a day strategy that I recommend that you follow. Okay. And I'm going to share another screen with you now, which is the 20-minute a day strategy, because LinkedIn is one of those things. You're playing the long game. You're playing the long game. So things don't generally happen overnight. And the other thing as well is that, especially when you're in business and you're generating leads, you kind of want to avoid that ebb and flow situation. So is anybody here kind of like, they go through phases where they get loads of leads and inquiries in 1 month, and then the next month, nothing. And then, sort of they get loads of leads and inquiries. Or in the accounting world, I know that this is a common frustration, is that when it comes to completing the tax return or completing a self-assessment, you get loads of leads and inquiries from people that need it doing urgently because they haven't prepared for it and they just want it doing last minute. If I was working in the accounting world, that would be something I'd find incredibly frustrating. So you want to kind of avoid that happening. But what if you could generate a consistent stream of leads all year round without having to then sort of like focus in chunks? What if people knew what they had to do and prepared ahead of time for their self-assessment instead of the month in which it was due? How, would that mean a lot to your business? Would that make your life a lot easier? You can achieve all of this through playing the long game and with your content. So I just want to show you here this little slide here. And this is what I mean by a 20-minute a day strategy, because everybody talks about time, not having enough time to spend on LinkedIn or social media or do everything else that's involved. Now, like I said before, things don't happen overnight, and you don't have to do everything every day. And also, you don't need to post on LinkedIn every day. It's not about quantity of posts. It's all about quality of posts. So I'm going to give you a tip here, especially if you're like me and you end up kind of like going down the rabbit hole, and you end up spending hours on LinkedIn or hours on social media, and you're just like, where's my day gone? Set a timer and set a timer and follow the strict sort of 20-minute rule if you want to do it for longer. So if you're not getting any leads, because I noticed a couple of people said that they've received no leads in months and really struggling to get leads, the more time you spend on LinkedIn, so like spend an hour a day, instead of 20 minutes a day. But if you're not like desperate for loads and loads of leads right now, just spend 20 minutes a day, because over time that will make a huge difference. And what do you need to do in that 20 minutes? Okay, so the first one is you want to connect with people. So when people send you a connection request, respond to that connection request, so add them into your network. But then the next step is to communicate with them. Don't just add people into your network and then just wait for something to happen. Add them into your network. Communicate with them. Now, there are 2 ways to communicate on LinkedIn. You can communicate with them directly and indirectly. Now, obviously, the direct way of communicating with them is to reply to direct messages, or is to proactively send direct messages to the people that you're connecting with. So, I think earlier a few people were talking about connecting with people that they don't know, or not really knowing why people are connecting with them. So if somebody sends you a connection request, all you need to do is just send them a message saying, hey, thanks for connecting. Out of interest, what prompted you to connect? The other thing is, check your messages to see if people are actually sending you an inquiry. Because Shane touched upon it earlier, and he said, I had an experience with accountants. Because what I did was I went to my network and I said, look, I'm looking for an accountant. Who would you recommend? Because word of mouth is always the best way. And I got 5 recommendations for local accountants to me. So what I did was I went onto LinkedIn, I checked to see they had authority in the industry, and I checked to see that they were actually credible sources of information. And I sent all 5 of them a connection request with a note to say, I am looking for an accountant. Would you be interested in speaking to me? Can anybody guess how many of those people accepted my connection request? Okay, none. None seems to be the main one. All of them, a few people. Yes, so all of them, all 5 accepted my connection request. 4 of whom accepted my connection request within an hour of me sending it, right? Next question, how many of those 5 people who then accepted my connection request actually responded? Now, I have my phone number on my LinkedIn profile, or I did back then. I have my email address on my LinkedIn profile, and they also have the ability to reply to my message. How many do you think actually replied to my message? Okay, so we've got a few zeros, a few threes, a few alls. Not one person. Not one person replied to that message. I was completely gobsmacked. 5 missed opportunities, and that's from me sending them a direct message, you know? So check your inbox and make sure that you are replying to messages. Okay, so this is why communication is so important. Okay, so connect and communicate. The other way that you can communicate with people within your network and outside of your network is by posting content. So you don't have to post content every single day in order to be visible on LinkedIn. Not everybody in your network. So if you have 300 connections on LinkedIn and you create a post, those 300 connections are not going to see that post. What you'll find is that a percentage of that 300 connections is going to see your post, and then LinkedIn will determine if it's a good post, if people actually engage with it in any way. And then if it's a good post, then LinkedIn will push it out to more people, but it still won't reach every single one of your connections. So this is why you play the long game, and this is why you continuously post content. And this is also why it's really important to make sure that your content is engaging. Your content is what people actually want to read and consume. So it needs to be engaging, it needs to be entertaining. It needs to prompt an emotional response, whether it's intrigue, curiosity, anger, rage, talk about something that's pertinent to your industry. So if you have common frustrations, for example, you could talk a lot about the common challenges that your market faces. You're prompting an emotional response, asking, does anybody else experience the same thing? So that's what I talk about communicating. So you send direct communications via message. The other way that you can directly communicate with somebody is to respond, as in comment, on somebody else's post. So that's another form of direct communication. An indirect form of communication is when you start to communicate to people outside of your network by them reading the comments that you're putting on other people's posts. So when you comment, the person who's posted the content will see your comments. Everybody who has engaged with that original post will also see your content if they bother to look for it. And then also your network will see it, as in a percentage of your network will see it, and a percentage of the poster's network will see it, and also a percentage of the other people that have commented with that post, that they will see it too. So sorry, I've got an itchy nose at the moment. Oh. So engagement, as in commenting on other people's posts, is just as important as posting unique content yourself. So that's another way of both directly and indirectly communicating with a wider network. So you want to connect, you want to communicate. And then this build is kind of like a threefold thing. You want to build your network. So you want to be constantly, adding people into your network. You want to be building it, growing it, and engaging with it. You also want to be building trust within your network, building trust, building likability, and getting people to know you. And these 3 things work in a bit of an ecosystem. So you want to constantly be connecting with people. You want to constantly be communicating with people and constantly be building your network and building that trust. And if you set yourself a timer of 20 minutes a day, you might find that on Monday, all you do is respond to your connection requests. On Tuesday, what you might find, all you do is respond to any comments on your posts, anybody that's tagged you or anything else. On Wednesday, that might be your day for creating a piece of content and then posting that to there. So don't try and do everything every single day, because otherwise then you will find yourself spending too much time on LinkedIn and then not enough time doing the important things that you need to be working on. But set yourself 20 minutes a day to just do one of these things. I mean, if you can do all 3 in a day, then happy days. But then, other days, if you don't do anything, it doesn't matter. But consistency is a real key for making progress on LinkedIn. And set that timer, because honestly, 20 minutes is not that big a chunk of time. You can do a lot in 20 minutes if you're focused, but it's not actually a big chunk of time. And also, like I said, that if you are really desperate for leads, then spend longer, post every day. But if you're not desperate for loads of leads, then 20 minutes a day, over time, you'll start developing that trust. You start building that brand for yourself. You're becoming very well known in your industry. And it's important to do this. Another thing to add, it's really important to do this even when you're busy. So when it's, sort of tax return month, or when it's self-assessment month, or, when you're super busy, find that 20 minutes a day just to keep it ticking over. Because trust, consistency, is a real big player when it comes to building trust in your market. And what I find a lot of people do, is another mistake that people make on LinkedIn, is that they go all in. So, they're desperate for leads. So they post every day, they're commenting, they're replying to messages, they're building the network. And then they get really busy with client work and then nothing. And then it takes them ages to build it back up again. So, sort of keep being consistent, keep showing up, keep posting valuable content, replying to messages and building your network. And over time, what you'll find is then people will start coming to you instead of you having to go out to them. Make sense? Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go through a couple of questions that people have had, because a couple of people have talked about finding you and then looking for your services. So on your profile, 3 most important things are your profile photo. So make sure that you have a like you profile photo. Don't have a photo of you from 10 years ago. If you're a bloke and you used to have a beard and you don't have a beard anymore, update your profile photo to show that you don't have a beard. If you used to have blue hair but now you have blonde hair, make sure that your profile photo is a current likeness of you. And also make sure that your headline showcases what it is that you do as well. Don't put your job title in your headline. Now, there are 2 ways of looking at what to actually write in your headline. And there's one way, which is where you talk about the problems that you solve. So you might see a lot of people start using, I help such and such a body with such and such a problem, or, empowering business leaders to become more financially savvy. It could be a sentence that explains the problems that you solve. The other option is to make it keyword appropriate. And if you go to my LinkedIn profile, so if you search for Charlie Wyman on LinkedIn and find me, then you'll see that I use the keyword approach. So I have B2B LinkedIn consultant, the Curiosity Key podcast host. I think I just have the podcast host. I have on my profile, I have curious thinking advocate. Now, you may be wondering, what is a curious thinking advocate? A lot of people on LinkedIn wonder, what is a curious thinking advocate? It's a conversation starter, because a lot of people send me messages saying, I thought I'd connect with you. What is a curious thinking advocate? And it starts a conversation. There are other people that will add something a little bit personal to them in their headline as a keyword. So they may put football coach, they may put beekeeper, they may put bread maker. LinkedIn's all about starting conversations. So if you can make it as easy as possible for people to start conversations with you, then that puts you on the front foot. So there are 2 ways that you could do your profile. Profile headline is a keyword approach or a sentence approach. And the reason why this is so important is that if you were to ever comment on somebody else's post, they will see your name, your profile photo, and your headline. And if that headline prompts curiosity, they will then click on your name and then go and have a look at your profile. If it's something just like, managing director of XYZ company, that doesn't necessarily give people that much knowledge as to what your company does, the problems that you solve, or why they should actually go and have a look at your profile in the first place. So your headline is really, really important. And it's a way of putting yourself out there, because you don't need to be connected to your target market in order to generate inquiries from them. Because people outside of your network will see your content, they will see your posts when more and more people start to engage with it. And then the other thing as well is, like, in terms of how do people find you and your services, is that the LinkedIn search feature, people will search for, say, I mean, we'll use the example of an accountant, they will search for accountant, and then you can select in the filters the city in which they live in, or the country, or they could search for something else. So if you have, you know, the right keywords in your profile, in the about section and in the skills section, then they will find you by just doing that search. But honestly, the best way to be found by your target market on LinkedIn is to be visible. So posting regular content, engaging with other people, and not just through relying on people searching for you. One of the most common things that I see on LinkedIn is people actually asking for recommendations. So people will ask, can you recommend an accountant to me? Can you recommend somebody that will help me with this? You know, can you recommend a Xero expert? I'm going to use Xero as an example for a moment, because I've noticed, you know, very few people take advantage of this. Is that, you know, there's a lot of people asking questions about the Xero accounting system at the moment. And in fact, there was one guy, as a small business owner in the security section, he actually wrote an article comparing Xero to QuickBooks, because he didn't really get a response to it. So he wanted to compare the two. So we did a trial of Xero, trial of QuickBooks, and then he summarized them. You know, if you specialize in Xero, for example, you could post videos, you could post tips, you could post content all around how to maximize the use of Xero, or, you know, why Xero is better than the other accounting packages, or who Xero is appropriate for, you know, and then you can slowly become known as that Xero expert. You know, on the flip side, if you don't want to do Xero, it could be QuickBooks, it could be Free Agent, it could be any one of those things. So the most effective way of becoming found by your ideal market is to be visible. So make yourself known. Post videos, post images, post text-only posts. And, you know, there isn't one particular type of content that works the best. You have to just sort of mix it up a little bit and play around with ideas, test it, see what works well with your audience. And Angela's asked, what time of day do you recommend posting content on LinkedIn? Again, it all depends on your target market. You know, if you're targeting people in the UK, you're targeting small business owners, you have to think, when are they most likely to be using LinkedIn? And test it. You know, I used to sell to surveyors. Now, surveyors typically are very early bird people and not necessarily that prevalent. They don't do work stuff in the evenings. So I found that I got the most response to my content if I post it first thing in the morning. So anywhere between sort of 5 and 8 o'clock in the morning. Now with my content, because I generally target sort of small business owners and consultants, I've found that Sunday afternoons and evenings are a really good time to post, because people are generally catching up and preparing for the week on a Sunday afternoon. You know, before 9 o'clock in the morning, people using social media. Never on a Wednesday. For some reason, my market doesn't ever respond well on a Wednesday or a Friday afternoon, because most people are, you know, kind of trying to wrap up the week so they can get home to their families and friends and, you know, start the weekend. So it is a case of testing, because the other thing as well to remember is that no audience or no industry is the same. Now, I've worked in many different industries. You know, in the 6 years that I worked for the laser scanning company, I worked with architects, I worked with surveyors, I worked with the mining industry, I worked with people working in heritage, and all of those different people all interacted and behaved online in a different way. And the other thing as well is the other tip, because I realize that we're coming up to time shortly. Language is really important too. So the best tip and advice I can give you now is to really think about who it is that you're targeting. Try not to be everything to everyone. Put together a profile of your ideal customer. So if you could pin your ideal customer down to like kind of one person, you know, who are they? What are their characteristics? What are their biggest problems? What are their biggest challenges? What language do they use? What times do they use social media on? What days of the week do they use social media on? How do they behave online? What do they like? What don't they like? And the more time you can spend on profiling your ideal client, the better and the easier you will find it moving forwards. Write your profile for that ideal client. Really, really important, because your profile needs to resonate with that ideal client. Your profile needs to create that curiosity so they read the whole thing. And your profile needs to ring out to them so they will take the next step. They will send you a connection request. They will send you a message. They will send you an email or pick up the phone. So your profile is really, really important. And then also your content that you start to write, you want to write it for your ideal client. You want to search for your ideal clients and interact with their content. So this is why that's really, really important. But language is really important as well, because the language that you speak isn't always the language that your ideal clients speak. So especially in accounting, like the way that I might talk about accounts might be very different to you. It might actually be wrong, but because I'm not an accountant, I talk in the language that I think I understand things. So sometimes communicating in the language that your customers talk in can gain much more attention than talking in the language that's known to you. Hopefully that makes sense. So somebody's asked, can we have more than one ideal client? You can have more than one ideal client, but I strongly recommend that you choose one, and that's your biggest source of leads and inquiries. Just because you have an ideal client in a particular industry doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to exclude other industries and other people. It just means that you are going to make your life a lot easier because you're targeting one particular sort of sector. Niching is really, you can become, the best way of putting this is like, you don't want to be everything to everyone. And the wider you cast your net in terms of who you're targeting, the more time you have to spend on marketing, the more money you have to spend on marketing, and the more effort you have to spend on actually creating the content and all the materials for them. The more specific and narrow you can be, the more you will be heard by the people that really want to work with you. So if you, and I mean, the best example of that really was, the laser scanning company that I spoke about. We worked with many consultants, and like I said, I'm not a trained marketer, so we worked with a consultant quite early on, and it was a business and management consultant. Again, wasn't a marketing consultant, and because we were targeting the world, and because we were targeting so many different industries, we're trying to be everything to everyone. And this consultant came in many years ago and he just said, you know what, like, which are your most profitable markets? Which markets do you enjoy working with the most? Which markets are the easiest to sell to, that have the money, willing to invest in what it is that you want to sell? So I was selling high-end equipment. So we wanted to target people that understood the value of the high-end equipment and were willing to pay for it. We weren't interested in talking to people that just wanted the cheapest, quickest solution. So, it's really important to not be everything to everyone and to really niche down. And I think I can't see everybody's full name, so I think it's Paul. It's just put, Emily, I create my own. I pride myself in explaining sometimes complex matters in simple terms with no jargon. That's a great example. But how can you show your market that you are really good at that? A lot of people get really confused by accountants. I have a lot of friends in business that are just like, I dread my meeting with my accountant because they overcomplicate everything and I don't understand what it is that they're saying. I love my meetings with my accountant because she explains everything in super simple terms, and she'll actually show me, because I like to get involved in stuff, she'll actually show me what it is that I need to do or what it is that I'm looking at, and I wouldn't choose somebody that overcomplicates things, because I don't want to work with somebody that overcomplicates things. But you need to be able to demonstrate the fact that you do that. It's all about that show, don't tell. Yeah? So in terms of just like a quick recap, because I know that we're at 11:28 now and I don't want to go too much over, is that, choosing an ideal client is really, really important. Your profile is so important, so important, because if you do nothing else, make sure that your profile is up to date and optimized, because when people, if somebody comes to you outside of LinkedIn, more and more now, today, people are then going onto LinkedIn, searching for you and seeing if you are actually a credible source of information. And I've had clients before that all they've done is optimize their profile. They've done nothing else, and they've won clients because they've spoken to people on the phone, that those prospects have gone away to think about it, done their due diligence, done their research, gone to the LinkedIn profile, and it's credible, and then they've decided to work with them. I've had other clients that prior to working with me, people have gone to their profile, realized that, you know what, there's nothing here, and then that stopped them working with that person because the profile wasn't up to date. So make sure that your profile is really up to date, and be consistent, be prevalent, be consistent and be visible on LinkedIn. So I hope that this has been helpful. I do want to offer you a couple of things before I go, before you go. So I have a free blueprint, which is essentially like a step-by-step guide to using LinkedIn. I'm going to put it in the chat. So it is charliewyman.com/LinkedIn blueprint, as in LinkedIn-blueprint. And it is basically a step-by-step guide. It's a blueprint to using LinkedIn for lead generation. So if you complete your name and email address on that page, then you will get the PDF document. Also, I think, as Shane said, that I am a member of B1G1 as well. So every time you download my blueprint, it triggers an impact, and I donate, I give on your behalf a family access to clean water over in Cambodia, because that's something that's important to me. You do need to fill it in. So it's a couple of people that have put their email address in the chat. You do need to go to that web page and put your email address in, because then that will trigger the impact, and it will also trigger the email. And then the other thing I wanted to offer you as well, because your LinkedIn profile is so important, is that I offer a LinkedIn profile audit where I will send you a questionnaire that will ask you about your business, your goals, and everything else. I will review your profile, and I will give you a video with feedback on how to optimize it and exactly what it is that you need to do to make it better. Now, I normally charge £300 for this, but for the benefit of you guys, because you spent an hour with me on this webinar, I'm going to offer you that for £150 instead of £300. And if you do want to take advantage of that offer, that's available until the end of November. And if you just send me an email to charlie@charliewyman.com, and then I can get that sorted for you. So yeah, I hope this has been beneficial. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, because I do post a lot of content about how to use LinkedIn, how to better market yourself and promote what it is that you're doing. And yeah, it'd just be great to connect and talk further.
Spot on. Well, thank you very much, Charlie. Please, everybody, we can't do a round of applause, but at least put something in the chat box that would reflect a round of applause for Charlie. I thought that was incredibly valuable. In fact, I even went onto my own LinkedIn profile and made a few tweaks and a big action plan of other stuff. And also a personal thank you to Emily, who actually joined me on LinkedIn within a few minutes of starting and viewed my profile, which gave me the pressure to make some amendments. So thank you for that. Yeah, shame on the rest of you for not joining me on LinkedIn on that session, and hopefully you'll do the same with Charlie. You'll join them.
I feel like I can breathe now. I think I was just trying to get through as much as possible within the hour, and I'm just like, blah, 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 blah.
Well, I thought it was delivered incredibly well and really valuable, and the chat box completely reflects that. So thank you very much. Hope you all have a fantastic day. I'll put that link into a follow-up email as well, in case you didn't catch it, as it's flowing off the screen now. But remember, as soon as this ends, it will fly off the screen, so at least click it or wait for the follow-up email. And thanks, everybody. All the best.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.